down further just what this means, the implications of the breakdown as it appears of this peace deal owing to that referendum, let's have a look at some of those timelines in those last 52 years of the Colombian conflict. And we begin in May 1964. Rebel leader Manuel Marulanda founded that revolutionary, I beg your pardon, armed forces of Colombia, which is known as FARC. August 7th, 1982, the government of President Belisario starts peace negotiations with that organization. So these negotiations have been happening for a long time. Since 1982 is the first round of talks we saw happen. And then we saw a ceasefire wounded when rebels attack kills 25 soldiers in southern Colombia. So again, casualties across both sides, as you will see as we continue, from the soldiers as well as the rebels in FARC. In 1991, they begin dialogue with the government delegates in Venezuela. Again, these talks, we see them over the time, as you'll see it playing out, happening in different parts, especially in the neighboring countries. 1992 October, negotiations end with no agreement. So unsuccessful at that point, but the efforts did not stop there. In 1998, President Pastrana announces new peace effort with FARC as well. So again, efforts to continue seeking that what had appeared to be elusive peace up to that point continued. And then we go to 2002, February the 20th, and here rebels hijack plane and take captive a senator who is a member of Peace Commission. So these are just some of the things we saw unfolding. 2 years later, undercover Colombian agents capture Rodrigo Granda, who was considered as FARC's foreign minister in Venezuela. Again, that in and of itself just shows the matter and extent of organization. FARC as an organization and as a grouping, as guerrillas, were having their own foreign minister, if you like. So 2007, the Venezuela president, then Chavez Hugo, offers to mediate between FARC and Colombian President Alvaro Uribe. That effort again collapses. So years of the same, going around in circles, same script, different cast. 2008, the FARC Secretariat member Raul Reyes killed in Colombian air attack in Ecuador. And the pursuit for peace continued with March 26, 2008. Top FARC leader Marulanda dies. Remember, this is who we saw at the very beginning forming the same. So he died in 2008 of natural causes after more than 4 decades of fighting the government. So he is one as well that never saw that peace deal agreed upon. 2010 September. The number 2 FARC commander and top military strategist as well, alias Mono Jojoy, killed by airstrikes, so the second in command as well. So again, efforts there to take down the top leadership, to be able to sort of disintegrate what this had formed to be quite contention for the government and the country as well. Top FARC commander as well, Guillermo Sainz, alias Alfonso Cano, killed as well in an attack by military. So there were efforts from that, to be able to take out, as I mentioned, the top commanders, the top leadership. But that, however, did not slow down FARC. That did not see it come to an end, or its force reigned in that country. Feb 26, 2012, FARC renounces kidnapping for extortion and frees all military officers in captivity. And then August 12th, 2012, President Juan Manuel Santos announces new peace talks with FARC 4 years ago. And this is what we have seen come up to this particular point, that peace deal being signed. Santos government and FARC announces peace accord. So August the 24th of this year. However, of course, what stands now in the way of this particular peace deal standing, or will it flop going forward, is that referendum. And the people, in a very thin margin, 50 point, I think is it 1%, saying they do not want, they do not agree with that peace deal. They feel there are elements of it that they're not agreeable to the people of Colombia. So let's get more perspective on this story. Joining me today is Ebo Loyeyo, who is with the Center for African Progress. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
So much for joining us.
Thank you.
Before we go to the war, I mean, that's 5 decades. It is a long time. Many kids being born and growing up knowing that conflict. But let's begin with the news of the President Santos winning the Nobel Peace Prize. Talk to us about why you think he deserved it.
What's the winning the kind of message it sends is it's been recognized for the effort it's been able to put up in making sure that Colombia has some kind of peace, having been in war for 5 decades, as you again said. Now, the stretch of the conflict for like 50 years, and then the attempts by various presidents to get some kind of peace accord signed that failed, where he went ahead and succeeded, is a reason for them to recognize him. He was able to, number one, put pressure, a lot of pressure on the militias by killing their leaders, of course, which, of course, necessitated their willingness to come to the table and talk. So having achieved that, he had to be recognized. He actually deserved it. Of course, he was not alone. It was a long list of other recognizable.
His efforts being at the very front. But you talk about success, being successful in bringing this deal. However, there are those who would argue even before it takes off, it's already suffered a huge blow from the people themselves. Is it that the people do not want peace?
Now, that is a serious setback. If you look at it from the perspective of the referendum, you can say it's a serious setback. But the reason as to why the no guys went ahead and won is the general sentiment that the president is opening the door for guys who've been killing people to be given some kind of scot-free walk, like no punishment and all that. So the no is meant to send some more additional pressure to the militias that people don't like what you've been doing. So you have to sit down and talk. So I think actually we're not likely to see more fighting from now going forward. And that is affirmation from the world community of nations that what the president has been doing is okay, and the militias must stop.
So what does this mean for the peace deal, though? Is it now broken, now that the people have said no, that they do not agree with some elements of it? Is it a deal that now perhaps even the militias will say, okay, we tried, we came to the table, we agreed, your people have refused, then let's continue fighting?
No, I don't think they're going to walk from it. Number one, the president has come out very clearly and said he's not going to give up. And the winning of the prize is additional momentum on he's got some new air on his back. So I think he's going to again call the guys, sit down, and try to find out how it can be moved forward. Now, the turnout was very small. It was very low. I think around maybe 35%. And that is a very small turnout. And the margin of defeat for yes was very small as well, 0.something, 50.1 to 49.8. So that is very narrow. So the support, I think the yes guys expected to win, but then I think they were caught unawares. So I expect a new round of effort from both sides, and it's likely to work out in the sands of time.
Because analysts would argue the people of Colombia, and you say it's it was a low turnout as far as the referendum is concerned, but they cannot have their cake and eat it. Where, though, is justice for those people? Because these are aggrieved people. Many have been killed. A lot of atrocities have been committed. So then they may feel shortchanged, and perhaps that's why they no one. When on one hand, we're saying, okay, for the sake of peace, let these people go scot-free. In fact, let some of them get into government. You'd see where some people would have a problem with that kind of a deal.
Yes. Well, if you read the complete agreement, there is some kind of punishment. Now, it's a very, very lengthy kind of document, and I'm thinking from the kind of, research we've done the process. It was not clearly explained to the people. That is why, they were not told, we're not going to let the guys go scot-free. There'll be some kind of punishment for them. As much as we'll include some of them in government, we're going to have some kind of truth and reconciliation process where they'll come out and accept their mistakes and take responsibility. So that the lack of explanation led to the belief that they're going to be let scot-free. So that is why the no was able to. And opinion poll after opinion poll showed no losing and yes winning by very wide margins. I think it misled the president. And then the guys who were supporting no, like the former president, also added momentum to the no. So, and given the kind of recognition the president has gotten from the international community by winning the Nobel, I expect him now to get more support from, for another initiative which I think he might take in the coming days.
So you're confident this one will hold? Because I've taken us through the timeline and we've seen efforts, talks coming and being put in play, but the same not bearing any fruit. Do you think this will hold? And if so, what is that thing that in 50 years they've not been able to achieve that will make it hold this time around?
The president is applying a multi-pronged kind of approach. Now, in addition to applying a lot of pressure on the militias, he's also extending a hand, saying, I'm willing to hold your hand so that we can end all this that has been in existence for 50 years. So as he kills their leadership, he's telling them we need to have peace for our people. So he's been using both the carrots and the stick. So, and that is why we were able to see the militias agreeing to sit down and negotiate and get to the deal. I don't think they're going to pull out. They're actually going to give it a second go. And eventually, I think it's going to work out. All he has to do is to keep doing what he's been doing. Pressure and some kind of, space for them to negotiate. And if you read the agreement again, it's been all about land. So the president said, we're going to have redistribution. Land which has been taken illegally will be given back to the people. He actually gave out so much for a president. That's why the militias were satisfied. Let's sit down and accept. So it's likely to work out.
Before we bring in Michelle to take us through also just what this Nobel Peace Prize means and how it has reflected around the world, why is it you think this conflict has taken so long and has played out for 52 years in this modern day and age with all of, the kinds of negotiators would have, changing times? Why is it has lasted so long?
Conflicts are actually always fueled by interests. Now, Colombia has a very long history of cartels, drug cartels. As you might know, it's the
I've been watching Narcos, so now I know a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's the biggest producer of cocaine and all that. So in addition to the unequal distribution of resources and all that, we've had the cartel activity. So the guys who've been benefiting from the conflicts. So when there's some kind of movement towards reconciliation, the beneficiaries of conflict always fuel it.
Okay.
Yeah, so the president came in and said, enough is enough. Let's get peace for our people.
Okay. Have you watched Narcos?
I have.
Yeah, I just finished watching it the other day, so it has now, there's a little bit of understanding in as far as some of the issues they are concerned. But let's bring in Michelle Ngele, who is going to take us through the Nobel Peace Prize. Of course, now we have the Colombian president as winner. Michelle, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Sophia. So there's been a lot of questions here today, as to what is this Nobel Prize? When did it begin? Who started it? So we're going to take, just a historical view and background of that Nobel Peace Prize. Okay. And interesting that this began in 1895, can you believe it, when a Swedish inventor known as Alfred Nobel actually left a will in 1895 detailing that most of his wealth should be used in establishing the Nobel Prize. Now, as you know, we have a lot of different Nobel Prizes. We have the Nobel Prize for physics, for chemistry, for medicine, but many world over view the Nobel Peace Prize as the ultimate Nobel Prize that there is to give. So far in history, 97 now, if you can't count Juan Santos, 97 prizes have been awarded between 1901 and 2015. And in 1901, the first Nobel Peace Prize was awarded to the founder of the Red Cross, Henry Dunant, and his economist counterpart, Frederick Passy, for the works that they did to improve the livelihoods of people across the world. And among these 97 prizes awarded, 16 of them have been awarded to women. And Kenya had the honor in 2004 of having Wangari Maathai being awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for her work with the environment. But interesting here that the average age of laureates when they were awarded the prize is 62 years old. So out of all these prizes that have been given, Colombian President Juan Santos is actually 65 years old. So he falls right in this category. And there's been a lot of talk as to why is it that most Nobel Peace laureates have to be elderly people over the age of 50. But you also have to take into account that the criteria for being nominated or awarded a Nobel Peace Prize requires you to have quite a bit of experience in public service, so to speak. But Malala Yousafzai made history when she got the Nobel Peace Prize in 2014 at the tender age of 17. So she was the youngest laureate so far. So it's not impossible for the younger generation to also win this Peace Prize. And of course, we've added Colombian President Juan Santos here. But let's have a picture. So this here is a picture of some of the famous people that have won the Nobel Peace Prize. We have Shimon Peres here, who won it in 1994. But this was also very contested during that time. We even had members of the Norwegian Nobel Committee resign resign following this appointment of Shimon Peres to win the Nobel Peace Prize. But also had 2001, we had Kofi Annan as well take the prize. This was a joint award with the United Nations for promoting world peace. So he is one of the Africans that won this award. Next to him in 2004, we had Wangari Maathai, who got the award for her works in the environment as well. And this was quite a historic moment for Kenya, considering that she did make history as the first African woman to be awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. And then in 2009, another contested award was Barack Obama. He was awarded this prize just weeks after he was elected to be president of the United States. And many asked questions: what has he done to warrant, what impact has he left in the world to warrant him being awarded the Nobel Peace Prize? So he was also one of those that were very contested. So these are just some of the peace laureates. We also have Albert Lutuli, who won the award in 1960, Mother Teresa in 1970. And it's interesting to find out that even Mother Teresa's award was also rather contested. Because she had a very controversial life and death as well. So many contested her winning this award, saying most of what she has done has only been written but not really been seen by most of the world. In 1984, Desmond Tutu, another African to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Yasser Arafat again in 1994. And Yasser Arafat's award was a joint award together with Shimon Peres. And we've talked about how contested that was. And of course, now in 2016, we have the Colombian president winning this award, which is also very contested following that peace deal that many largely deem as a failed peace deal so far. But he is, among these famous Nobel Peace Prize winners. 97 of them so far have been elected or awarded this prize. And Sophia, just as we finish up, it's interesting that many would ask, so what? So what after being, named the Nobel Peace Prize award?
Winner.
So the prize amount for this year is actually 8 million Swedish kroner, which is about 930,000 US dollars. So that's the prize. If you have time at home, that's money.
Yeah, some good money.
I mean, that's times what 100. Turn it into Kenyan currency.
Yes.
So it's quite a bit of money. And that's the history of the Nobel Peace Prize.
All right. And before we let you go, Abel, thank you so much for staying with us. So he's gotten the award, of course. Do you see it because of his efforts to restore peace in his country as being the key driver to this particular Nobel Peace Prize? Because we've seen some of the winners have had contention. Some people have had questions. Was that worthy of an award of that magnitude?
Well, from my view, I think it served it. And it's not just someone who popped out of nowhere, because he has a long history of public service. He's been a minister for finance, he's been a minister for defense, and then he's been a strong champion for peace throughout his service to the people of Colombia. And then, he's come in and given it his all, like he was a genuine bargainer. That is why I think even the militias were willing to say, okay, we've seen someone who's willing to move in and show his hands, play all his cards on top of the table. So I think the effort he showed over the short duration he's been president, I think, which is around 6 years or 5 years, it's worth it. And that is meant, of course, again, to support him, to give him the kind of encouragement and clout he needs to now maybe push it forward even harder and get to restore peace after 50 years of conflict. Yeah.
Abel, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you.
For the context, perspectives you've given us as well on Colombia, what this peace deal, the fate of it going forward, and as well as the win by their president. So Abel Oyeyo, who's with the Center for African Progress, with us there. It is time now that we want to cross over to our other studio. Our Zinzi Kibiku is standing by to help us and give us an understanding, an update of what's happening in other different parts of the world, and as far as press there is concerned. Zinzi, you're looking lovely. What do you have for us?
Thank you, Sophia. Thank you so much. Well, today on World Press, we'll take a look at Hurricane Matthew and the damage that it has managed to cause, as well as that story of the Nobel Peace Prize 2016. So let's get started. Our very first one is none other than the New Times. Coming here closer home is Rwanda. Now, earlier this week on Tuesday, Paul Kagame, president of Rwanda, decided to reshuffle his cabinet on Tuesday. That's so new faces added to it. About 5 new faces added, making a total of 31 cabinets, and 38% of them were women. Now, out of these new cabinets, he has urged them to work against government bureaucracy and work faster. And as I told you, that this reshuffle came earlier this week on Tuesday. If you're following what's happening in Rwanda, that is one of the stories that you can get on the New Times, as well as the hotel conference that is still currently ongoing in Kigali. All right, away from the New Times, let's now take you to Al Jazeera, where they're running with the big story of the day. Colombia Santos awarded the 2016 Nobel Peace Prize. Of course, he was up against 367 candidates, comprising of about 228 individuals, 148 organizations. Of course, the first award prize was back in 1901. He joins rather the 129 Nobel Peace Prize laureates. Now, despite the fact that he lost a very crucial referendum, a peace deal referendum to be more specific, 50% of Colombians voted no, while another 49% voted yes. This is still one of the things that he is being recognized for, is pushing for peace within Colombia, hence why he's getting one of the world's most prestigious prizes. President Manuel Santos over there, one of the stories that Al Jazeera is running with this afternoon. Away from Al Jazeera, let's now take you to CNN, where currently, as we speak, if you go to their Facebook page, they are streaming live the Hurricane Matthew that is ravaging through Florida. Of course, right now, that death toll from Haiti has risen to 300. In fact, in one town, it has managed to kill about 50 people. And in one city known as Jeremy, 80% of the buildings have already been destroyed, as well as 30,000 already left homeless. So as I told you, that if you go to CNN's current Facebook page, they're streaming live that hurricane that is currently ongoing. Now, this is the first time a hurricane is happening in broad daylight in Florida. But also another story that you will find, it's in regards to the death toll in Haiti. It will break down to you what is happening in Haiti and how this Hurricane Matthew has managed to affect this country that is still, healing from the 2010 hurricane and also the cholera outbreak that it has been seeing. But away from CNN, let's now take you to BBC, where 2 of our top stories are there, and that is the 100 dead in Haiti storm disaster. While this is happening, guess what? About 4,300 flights have been cancelled in Florida, and thousands of people already having power issues. And so that is the current status update with in regards to Hurricane Matthew that BBC is running with. But let me also draw your attention to this. Desmond Tutu wants the option of to be assisted to his death. The Archbishop of Desmond Tutu, in an interview earlier on, he said that he wants the option of assisted death. Allow me to quote him. He says that dying people should have the right to choose how and when they leave Mother Earth. Of course, we will get all that story, all the details on that on BBC. All right, that brings us to an end to World Press here on Worldview, but we still have so many other stories for you here, so stay with us on KTN News after this break.